Hello, it's Holly,
And Tim,
and we're back with another Mythbusters episode.
can you notice that we're doing them all on the same day?
Yeah, we're what they call in YouTube land, we're batch recording, and these
Yes.
will be released at different times. So no, we don't wear the same outfit every day. We're recording a lot in one day. So what myths are we going to debunk today?
Myths about interabled couples.
Let's start by let's define an interabled couple.
Yeah, Holly had to explain to me what interabled couple means.
This means that one partner, one spouse in the relationship has some sort of disability and the other one doesn't.
Okay.
Boom. Shakalaka. Simple.
Yeah. So, myth number one is it's such a burden to caregive for your spouse.
Ooh, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
It's a hard thing to have to hear when people in society will say that you're a burden. Fortunately, I think that most of my life people have not seen me as a burden, with the exception of maybe a couple, but most not. Most have not.
Yeah.
And I tried to be very open with you,
Yeah.
right, before we got married.
Yeah.
I think maybe I even
This was basically how our courtship went. Don't marry me, I'm trouble. Don't marry me, I'm trouble. Don't marry me, I'm trouble.
I was basically trying to see if I just let him know how difficult what I perceived as some of the most difficult parts would be. If I was just really open and honest with that really early in our relationship, I felt like I would know if we were going to move forward or not. If he could get past the idea of certain things, then
Yeah.
I felt like it might be okay.
Yeah. So, as far as being a burden, first of all, I want to ask what exactly is a burden? And I think most people, and maybe not everybody's like this, but most people, when they think of someone or the caregiving for somebody as being a burden, they have in mind that it is a very difficult challenge. It's a lot of hard work, and it's so much hard work that it's very discouraging, and that it really is maybe an undue or unfair workload. Here's the way I perceive it. Okay, family involves doing a lot of hard work. A mother has a baby. She goes through this very long, painful process called labor, which no man can know. Only women can know what labor is. And then when she finally gives birth, she raises the kid, and she has in her mind that the kid's going to be like one of her pristine dollies. But when the kid gets old enough, they start getting into trouble all the time. And then when they get older, they get into bigger trouble all the time. And sometimes they have their rebellious moments. And if you're putting into perspective the idea of child raising, you could say raising a child is a burden, But then what type of person is going to go over to a new mother and say, boy, that little squirt you're raising is a real burden?
Yeah, it must be such a burden to have to take care of that kid.
Yeah.
But that is kind of what it equates to.
Yeah.
Very much so. Like my job is such a burden. Never mind the fact that it, gives us things that we need, or, never mind the fact that that child brings you joy, right?
Yeah.
So I believe that people need to understand that.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I'm grateful that you don't see me as a burden.
No, not at all. But the fact of the matter is, when you're family, you're family. What kind of a family member wouldn't make sacrifices for the weaker one? If you're the type of person that wouldn't make sacrifices for your family members, you might want to check your spiritual health. You might want to check how close you are to Jesus.
Yeah, that's kind of a hard word, but it's true, because if we're not willing to sacrifice, and by the way, I just want to clarify something too, because you said what family member wouldn't sacrifice for the weaker one. We all have weaknesses.
Yeah.
Yes, I have a ton of physical weakness, but we established early on that, you had some strengths and I had some weaknesses, and I had some strengths and you have some
Yeah.
weaknesses.
Holly is more social than I am. So,
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely more social, but it doesn't mean that you're a burden because
no,
you're not as social as me,
no.
So, anyway, that's myth number one.
Yeah. The next myth. Oh, this was actually a myth that I used to believe before I got very far involved with you.
Oh, yeah?
Wouldn't she be more compatible with someone who is disabled?
I think at the heart of it all, we're compatible with who we're compatible with.
Yeah.
Whether someone else was disabled or whether somebody wasn't.
Yeah.
Um, in my case, it would have been very difficult, I think, for me to marry someone with a physical disability simply because, I think it would have been harder for
Yeah.
us to make our life work because we would both have, physical caregiving needs and we
Hmm.
would have to figure out some things, and I'm sure it could have been done.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I never met anybody like that,
Yeah.
you know?
And that was actually a question I asked Holly during our dating season. Was because in my mind, the biggest issue with marriage outside of morals, you want to marry somebody who's got the same vision and heart for Christ that you do.
Hmm.
But outside of the morals, one of the things that was really big for me was compatibility. I wanted to marry someone who had a lot in common with me. I didn't want to marry somebody who is my polar opposite in every regard,
Hmm.
because if I married somebody who was my polar opposite in every regard, it'd be an endless fight. We'd
Hmm.
constantly be squabbling back and forth over who does what, where, when, why, how.
Hmm.
So I wanted somebody who was going in the same direction that I was going, and I actually found a very good compatible person in Holly. But I asked Holly, wouldn't you be more feel more compatible with somebody who is disabled because you would have that in common with them? And she told me very straightforward. She was like, well, if I'm disabled and he's disabled, we can't do much help for each other.
Yeah, now, with that being said, because that sounds like I'm being ableist, but the truth is, if I had met someone that I really felt a connection with, I don't think it would have mattered to me because I had friends already that had
Hmm.
disabilities, but it's just that I never met anybody that
Yeah.
clicked. I mean, and like I said, we would have
I'm not.
double the struggles.
Yeah, I'm not saying that a disabled person should never marry another disabled person.
Yeah, I mean, if that's who you have found and that works for you, God bless you. Go
Yeah.
that direction. Or if you married someone or you're thinking about marrying someone who is, more physically able as far as medically speaking, then by all means, again,
Yeah.
God bless you.
Yeah.
Whatever works in your situation.
Yes. The point is that we're the same type of people, and a person who is disabled is the same type of person as a person who is able-bodied. Only difference is that they can't do some of the things that an able-bodied person can do.
Yeah. So, in short, you're compatible with whoever you're compatible with.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Myth number, what are we up to? All
Myth
right.
number 3:
Okay.
he must do all the work in the relationship.
Do you?
I think I do the vast majority of the physical work in the relationship, but not necessarily the mental or the emotional work in the relationship.
I think that would be primarily me.
Yes.
I mean, you are sensitive. He's really sensitive, and he actually is probably much more sensitive in the sense that he is not afraid of emotions. And I think that you feel deeply. You don't always show your emotions
No,
necessarily,
I mean,
but
I try to keep a poker face sometimes.
poker face. But anyway, even though he does have those deep emotions, it's usually me who addresses emotional situations.
Hmm.
And I think we pretty much both address spiritual stuff. Although, even that we address from different
Yeah.
angles.
I think Holly has been really good with addressing emotional needs. Before I got married and before I even learned how to grieve properly over the loss of my mother died when I was 19 of breast cancer.
Mm-hmm.
I used to constantly hide my heart. I didn't want to appear vulnerable. And I realized later on that that was actually driving me from people who could otherwise help me, people who would be legitimate friends to me and were willing to be friends to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've learned to be more embracing of my emotions, be
Mm-hmm.
willing to share them, and not have to appear invulnerable all the time.
Right, right. And what's kind of ironic is that even though I address things, sometimes I still have a harder time with letting certain emotions out
Mm-hmm.
than you do.
Yeah. And Holly is quicker to notice when somebody else around her is
Mm-hmm.
hurting than I am.
Mm-hmm.
I will sometimes not even notice. I'm like, blah, blah,
Mm-hmm.
blah. She's fine. He's fine. Everybody's fine. We're all
Mm-hmm.
fine.
Yeah, it's just discernment,
Yeah.
and some of that's just I think a difference that God designed into men and women.
Yeah.
Y'all notice certain things and we notice certain things, and I think I just probably have a little bit more discernment about those things than you do,
Hmm.
but you're much more gifted in other things than I am.
Yeah. I like to look at things rationally. And sometimes when things don't sort of compute logically, it's kind of like, something's weird here. Something needs a little more probing.
Yeah. And sometimes things can't be just computed. So
Yeah.
sometimes we butt heads over that. I'll be discerning something, either emotional or spiritual about a person or a situation. And, I'm
Yeah.
trying to talk to Tim about it and he's going directly to the concrete things. And that's hard for me sometimes. So, we do butt heads about that once in a while, but,
Yeah.
it is what it is. That's life, right?
Yeah. Well, we got to love and embrace each other.
Yep. So that was what, myth number 3?
Yeah. Myth number
Okay.
three.
Okay. What's our next myth?
Myth number 4, it's such a great sacrifice giving up sex for your disabled spouse.
This just makes me roll my eyes. It's kind of funny too. Um, we don't talk about this publicly a lot because we feel like it's a private matter,
Hmm.
but because this issue does, show up in conversations here and there, and definitely in a whole lot of assumptions,
Hmm.
we feel like it's okay to address it in a very non crass and candid and just careful manner.
Yeah.
And I would just simply say that myth is false.
Yeah. I won't talk about it any more detail than that. But in case you didn't know, we're married. And whenever you get married, you're saying in front of everybody, hey, we're having sex.
Or, hey, guess what? People just know it, but they don't talk about it.
Yeah. They don't
But
talk about it like that.
yeah, but for some reason, when it comes to a couple where one of the spouses, spice, that always made me laugh, mouse, mice,
Yeah.
spouse, but I don't know. Anyway, I digress. So it always is interesting to me how people just automatically assume that if one of the spouses has a physical disability that's not a part of your marriage,
Yeah.
and that's simply not true.
Yeah.
Now, certain things may have to be done a little differently or
Hmm.
with more caution or care.
Yeah.
I guess if I had to boil it all down to something, I would simply say this. You wouldn't go up to, can I pick on you being bald for a minute?
Yeah.
I think he's cute because he's bald. I like that. But, some people may not find that appealing. I don't know. So
I
anyway,
started losing about 25 is when I started losing my hair.
yeah, but so this is the only way I've ever known Tim. And, what if somebody just, let's say I'm able bodied and I have Tim who has no hair, right? And so people say to me, it must be really sacrificial that you had to give up sex because your husband is bald. That doesn't make a lick of sense. Like, none. So, I mean, if you're married,
Yeah.
you know what that involves.
Yes.
And that's just as true of folks like us as it is anyone else.
Yeah.
And just like Forrest Gump, that's about all I got to say about that.
I only got one more thing to say.
Yeah.
Sex within marriage, as long as you're being faithful, is good.
Regardless of the techniques
Yes.
or what's involved, it's.
Yeah. I mean, the Bible says that the marriage bed is undefiled in Hebrews.
In other words, God designed it
Yeah.
And so it's all right within the proper boundaries to partake appropriately.
Hmm.
All right. Next myth. What is this myth number
5.
five?
And this is the last one.
Number 5. We made it this far. Stick around.
There must be something seriously wrong with that able bodied person to marry that disabled person.
Yeah.
And wrong could be like, he's stupid.
You pervert.
And it can also be pervert, like she
Yeah.
said.
Yeah. So this is something that I think a lot of couples where one partner is disabled has faced. I know that I faced it.
Yeah.
Before I got married, like years before I got married, before I even knew that Tim was, on this earth, we had not met yet. I was having a conversation with someone, and this someone said, "Yeah, I'm not going to say you'll never get married, but I highly doubt it because I just don't think a man would, be able to handle that. I just don't. And if they did, I think there must be something really wrong with them."
Mm-hmm.
And one of my own relatives, who is no longer alive anymore, actually once said to me, "No man will ever want you." So, that leaves this impression in my mind that if one did, then there must be something wrong.
Mm-hmm.
It even messed with my own head, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I say all that to say this: those comments are wrong, they're hurtful, they're
Mhm.
ignorant, they're insensitive. Pick a negative adjective and it probably fits.
Yeah.
You know, are you a pervert?
No.
He's probably about as close to prudish as someone, could be for a male. Now, he's not really a prude. That's probably a strong word. But what's the word? You're very cautious about,
Mm-hmm.
certain things, whatever. I'm trying to figure out how I'm trying to say this. Yeah. He is just about as straight laced as they come when it comes to that. So no perversion there.
Mm-hmm.
Would you say that you're weird?
Some people would say I'm weird, but
I'm
not.
weird, but not in that regard.
I'm only weird in the sense that I think things are funny, and I like to laugh. I think God made humor for us to enjoy.
And just for the record, I don't always think things are funny that he thinks are funny. Like he'll crack a joke and I don't even realize it's a joke, but I don't find that weird. That's just his
Yeah.
cracky, dry sense of humor. Um, would you say that there's something wrong with you? That's a loaded question, right?
Is there something wrong with me? um, well, here's the thing. My GPA, I graduated with a 3.99, and I really want that 4.0.
Yeah, so there's clearly something wrong with it upstairs.
But seriously, as far as something weird, or something perverted, marrying somebody with a disability doesn't mean that.
It probably means that the person has even more compassion than the average person because they're willing to take a risk
Mm-hmm.
on
Yeah.
something that they might not fully understand what they're even getting into.
I think the thing to keep in mind is that people who are able bodied persons who actually choose to marry a disabled person, okay?
You said a key word there: choose.
Yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
hadn't thought about that. It's usually because they see something that other people do not see.
Mm-hmm.
When I was dating Holly, the biggest thing on my mind was, does this person love God with all their heart? If they don't love God, I don't want to be with them.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing that was on my heart was, is this person compatible with me? Can we have a long-term sustainable relationship? Because even if we both love God, but we don't have a lot of the same values,
Mm-hmm.
we're not going to be compatible long term. We have to head in the same direction if we're going to stay together.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was asking questions to Holly and Holly was asking questions to me, I actually found that she was more compatible to me than anyone I had ever met. I'll give you a hint. This woman even likes Star Trek, and I like Star Trek. Okay.
Shh, don't tell them that. They might think we're weird.
and
I don't care. I'm a
yeah,
Trekkie from way back.
and the thing is after I dated Holly, after a while, I sort of had a little bit of a chuckle to myself. I don't know if I ever told you this, but I'll tell it to you now.
Oh, dear.
And I
Oh,
said,
dear.
you know, I sort of said to myself, most of the guys, when they see Holly, the only thing they see is that wheelchair. But Holly has a lot of very admirable qualities that go far beyond that wheelchair.
Hmm.
When I was writing down the qualities that I wanted in a woman, and Holly filled these things to the bill, like picture perfect, It was something that I'd been praying for God about, and I wrote a list down of qualities that I wanted in a woman, and I actually divided them qualities I must have in a woman, and qualities that I can deal without, but I'd really like to have in a woman. And she filled that list out perfectly. But I also wrote down another list item, and I said, Lord, she doesn't have to be smart, but I'd really like her to be smart. And lo and behold, I meet up with this brilliant woman who teaches over at a university.
And you're like, Lord, I ask you for somebody smart, not a smart aleck. Because I can be one of those too, a little bit.
I think we all can, honey. I mean, I've seen people that may not have been what most people would call smart, but we're still smart Alex.
Oh gosh.
Can you tell we're tired?
Yeah, we've had a long day.
So just so you know, that's what it boiled down to. I saw something in Holly that most people were overlooking, and that's why I chose to marry her because she was fully compatible with me, and like I said, she had a lot of qualities, a lot of very good qualities that a lot of people were just overlooking. They didn't see it, and sometimes when you see a couple that look a little weird and they're like, those two shouldn't be together, you should think to yourself, could it possibly be that the reason those two odd couple people are together is simply because he or she sees something in them that you're not seeing?
Hmm. So just so you know, I married you for your eyelashes. No, I'm just kidding. He has eyelashes for
Advice for
days.
all of you women, that's the type of man you should be pursuing.
Get the one with the nice eyelashes.
That is what provides a sustainable marriage.
Yes. No, for real. I'm grateful that
Mhm.
when I was much younger and I prayed about certain relationships in the past, almost desperately, I am so grateful
Yeah.
that God knew what He was doing,
Yeah.
and that when He said no in certain situations, it was because He had something else down the line that I couldn't see yet.
Yeah.
And now He's here.
Yeah. And just a little advice for all of you guys out there if you happen to be watching, okay? If you're scrolling through your phone, don't automatically dismiss somebody just because of the way they look. That was actually another commitment. And after I prayed about it, I sort of talked to the Lord. I was like, I'm not going to dismiss a woman just because she looks a certain way. I have to have something a little bit more than that. A lot of times I think we men are a little bit prejudiced, and that if she's not a 10, she's a 1. And it's like, what really is a 10? You know, if you're judging somebody only because they fit a certain body type, how shallow is that? You know, you need to look a little deeper. You need to try to find the inner person. There's a reason why they call your marriage partner a soulmate and not a body mate.
Ooh, that's good. That's got a punch on it right
Yeah.
there. And women, I would say the same thing to you. Don't just look for the man that you think is the hottest or will make the prettiest babies or, drives the fancy car or has the, highest paying job. Any of those things that, those I would say those are burdens, place those on males.
Hmm.
That's not really what it's going to be about. Pick the one who is going to sit by your bedside when you're sick.
Yeah.
Pick the one who's going to take off work when something happens and you need to go. Pick the one who's going to be there for you when your parents are old and sick. That's the husband that you want.
Yeah.
Pick the one who's steady.
Hmm.
Pick the one who's stable.
Yeah.
That's the one that you want.
I agree.
All right. So, with that being said, I think we're checking out on this particular episode and we'll be back in the future. But if you have questions, you have myths, you have comments or concerns, feel free to drop them in the comments below and we'll address them in a future episode.
Thank you so
Bye.
much.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.